Memorial Day is coming up this weekend. A lot of you have off Monday. We think about the picnics. We think about the fun of getting together with family. Do we think enough about those who gave their lives to this country, who have served this country, who are maybe out there right now suffering with some of the things that happen when you get home? This next guest is a gentleman who knows a little something about all this. He's going through some tough times. A former homeless addict and alcoholic. He lived on the streets. And he has since turned his life around. And he has started a program called Veterans Matter. He is the founder of the program, and he's a special guest this morning on the Gary Sutton Show. We're talking about Ken Leslie, who joins us here on WSBA. Good morning, Ken. How are you?
Good morning. This is the internationally famous Gary Sutton.
Thank you, Ken. I appreciate that. I owe you some money for that, too,
by the way. Yeah, sure. Yeah, in Canada, all over.
You know how it goes. Anyway, Ken, first of all, tell me a little bit about your life. I mean, I'm reading about you. It's a fascinating story here, and yet you're a guy who's found, you referred to an earlier time in your life, I think, as party animal days, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, first of all, you can't believe anything on the internet.
All right, yeah, nothing. Right.
So I was a professional comedian traveling around the country making people laugh, and that's the perfect career to become an alcoholic and an addict. And the problem is when you are an alcoholic and addict, then everything you do goes to continuing that lifestyle. So I lost everything pretty much. Ended up on the streets for a very short period of time. It wasn't that terribly bad.
Right.
But it was enough for me to understand how bad it was. And then in 1990, got clean and sober. In 94, founded a executive search firm, which has now been running for 20 years.
How'd you turn it around? I mean, a lot of people often ask, that are out there that are maybe suffering through some of the things. And what was the moment, or what was the process?
Yeah, it's really been helpful for having gone through what I went through, because when you're there, it's not fun. But now being able to have that perspective for two reasons. One is the people that I'm working with on the streets, I'm able to talk to them in a relationship that's, I've been there. Don't give me any bull. This is how it goes.
Yeah.
How you get there, and it's the only way. So I'm able to relate to the people who are alcoholic and addict like I was in that way. But better yet, I'm also able to communicate to the general public, who have the will to say, they want to be there. When you're addicted, you don't want to be there. It's like gravity. Have you ever tried quitting smoking cigarettes? You want to quit. How many times before you actually do? Or if you tried to lose weight, not eat that cheeseburger. That's the gravity that pulls you back. And no matter what your addiction is, that some have higher impacts than others.
We welcome people to call in this morning, by the way, at 1-800-357-0910 and talk to Ken Leslie, and he won't bite you. He promised today that you only bite on Fridays, right?
Yeah. Hey, wait, today's Friday.
Oh, sorry. Anyway, Ken, I was reading the story about how you got Veterans Matter started, and you were talking about February 2nd of 2012, and you were told that a $750 deposit was all that was preventing two locally chronically homeless veterans from getting into the ready HUD VASH housing. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so for the last 25 years now, since 1990, I've been able to give back. As a CEO, right. I became a philanthropist. We started a bunch of little programs that have helped people. John Mellencamp in 2007 came to one of our things, and we ended up spurring a nonprofit called One Matters. John invited everybody at our tent city to a show, and one of them came back after and said, "John, talk to us from the stage. I guess I really do matter." And that's how One Matters was started, and John's continued that fraternity. So we've been doing a lot of outreach as well with the homeless, and in particular, a good friend of mine with the, Sean Dowling is her name, with the local health care for homeless veterans program. She said, because two of my friends were in that HUD VASH program. And are you sitting down, Gary?
Yes, I am.
Okay, the government has a really good program in the VA that helps veterans get housed. It really is a good program. I'm a cynical bastard, and I'm sure, well, hopefully you have a 7-second delay, but
don't worry about it.
So if it wasn't working, I'd be the first one to say it.
Right.
But the VA has a program called HUD VASH, which provides long-term housing. Section 8 housing, while the VA provides the case management to help them with whatever issue they're dealing with. But the problem was the homeless veterans didn't have the deposit. And I asked Sean how many of them in our area, and she said 35. I said, so you're telling me 35 people don't have a deposit. How much for this area? She said $600. So that night, I came up with this idea of Veterans Matter. We take care of our own. The next morning, I called a foundation here in town and said, hey, Barb Petey with the ProMedica Foundation said, I need $26,000, and I need it at Black Ops speed because we have veterans waiting to get housed. So you know how fast foundations work, right?
Right. No studies, no study groups, any of that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah. 7 days later, Valentine's Day, 5:36 p.m., she called and said, you have your full funding. 3 days after that, we housed our first veteran. So it was 11 days from idea to implementation. I mean, it really is an amazing story.
I was struck when I read some of the information about you, and you said, okay, we've got 33 more vouchers out there. It's $600 a piece, whatever it was. And so you said, simple problem, simple solution. Find money, pay the deposit to the landlord, go up, help the next veteran. We must take care of our own.
Yeah.
And I thought, in a day and age where people try to complicate things and make up gray areas, you went right to the right or wrong of it and said, here's what we're going to do.
Yeah, but that's always the focus for all of our programs is what's best for the people that we're trying to serve. And everybody has an ability to complicate stuff, particularly in government and business and, any industry. But if you just keep it simple, and by doing that, we have no distractions. We're able to get our job done. I mean, this is a unique program where, for example, in Pennsylvania, how many vouchers do you guys have here? Hold on. I think maybe 135 that are in that area in particular. So we would get the funding just for those 135. That would it. And then we end funding and go on to the next area.
We're talking with Ken Leslie, who's the founder of the Veterans Matter program. One of the things that bothers me a lot, Ken, and we want to help. So the question is, why so many homeless? Why so many veterans coming home and they're ended up homeless and out of a job and all those kind of things? What's going on?
Well, the reality is there's 640,000 Americans who are unhoused.
Right.
And last year there were 60,000 veterans who were unhoused, and now there's 57,000. And so for most of them, it's the same reasons everyone else becomes unhoused. But what we're doing as Americans is feeling the obligation to, or at least I do, and the people that I'm with, and I think most Americans feel the obligation to take care of those who took care of us. They fought for us, now we're fighting for them, and that's what Veterans Matter is fighting for them.
We're homeless, not hopeless. We matter. One of the lines that I was struck by as I read through this. Tell me a little bit about that.
Wow, you did some really good research.
I tried to. You're a good guest, man. I wanted to have you on here and do right by you.
Oh, you're so sweet. We appreciate it. What people are easy to do is dismiss anyone in need. We have a culture in America now where we look at those who are homeless as pariahs, that any help that we give them is somehow a tap on the resources of America, when I believe that through God or Allah or any other religion, nature, in the manual it says your job is to go out and help others, and then down the road a piece I'll do some judging. So that's our obligation as humans, to be able to help people. So it's really simple, and every single person really does matter. So the guy you see panhandling, he may be scamming, or he may need milk for his 3-year-old baby. You don't know. So you talk to the people, you find out, and you get a little bit of depth that way to understand what they need.
You've written 3 documentaries on homelessness over the years since 1990. No House to Hold, Homeless, Not Hopeless, A Home for the Holidays. And you had an Emmy-winning baseball feature with the Detroit Tigers in 1992. Tell me about all that.
I forgot about that stuff. The homeless documentaries.
Remember when 1992 didn't seem that long ago?
Oh, Jews, yeah. Man, no computers then, remember? They're just starting.
How did we make it?
I don't know. We got cell phones now that it make me a lot smarter with Mr. Google. He knows everything.
Yes, I know the feeling. Believe me.
But I've always been in and enjoyed being able to tell a story as a producer and as talent. And the 3 documentaries were done over a decade. And the first one examined emergency shelters and in particular why the family shelters are so important for kids. And then the second one dealt with the transitional shelters, how you go in and you try and turn your life around. And then for last 25 years, we've been doing an annual tent city, which is not your standard tent city, but rather an event where we bring the entire community together to help those in need. And that third documentary is about 3 guys who came to our tent city who wanted to get sober, and we followed them up until Christmas for the documentary, and that's how A Home for the Holidays was produced. And it was all of these things. Pretty much, we've always been a non-profit organization that is all volunteer. For the last 25 years, Veterans Matter is the first time that we've actually had to hire staff, and it's incredible how that's working. We have a $80,000 administrative assistant who's working for $10 an hour to be able to coordinate all the VASH managers across the country.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, that's how cool this is, where people come together.
When we get to Memorial Day weekend, like we are this weekend, you've got to have a very special feeling. What kind of things are you doing to kind of just highlight the weekend? Maybe just the same things you do every day is out there helping veterans.
I think that's probably the case. I think that every day we just go do what we can or what we should. For this weekend, with America putting the attention on it, we've been able to gather up a bunch of friends who are kicking off a national campaign to raise enough money to house as many veterans as we can, as fast as we can. And our first benchmark is 1,000 veterans. And all of these artists have donated their time and energy. They've produced documentaries, which Cumulus Broadcasting is airing nationwide across all formats. And it's like iced tea. I mean, I'm a nobody. I really am. I'm a guy that's a CEO of a company. I don't do this stuff for a day job. But Ice-T, Kid Rock, Mellencamp, Dusty Hill with ZZ Top, Stevie Nicks, all these people, about a dozen of them, have produced these public service announcements that will be airing nationwide. Really cool stuff. You're the founding funder and founding member of the Toledo-Lucas County Homelessness Board, known as TLC, a collaboration between the city of Toledo, near where I was born. I was born in Fremont, Lucas County, and the United Way. Homelessness is kind of, no matter where you go, that kind of goes with you, right? Everybody gets called to something. Yep. And this just happened to be what I got called to, and I'm surrounded by other people who are called to this. There's so many good causes out there. I mean, people are called to the Humane Society, the environment. So I'm just like everybody else, just doing what I'm called to do, because I found that if we do whatever our calling is, we find a great deal of peace as a result of following through in that calling. So it's no big deal. I always tell people I don't really do anything. I just know a lot of really good people who do. You know what? It is a big deal, though. I mean, it may not be a big deal as you see yourself in the whole machination of the whole thing, and yet at the same time, it's a big deal to those who are receiving on the other end compared to where they've been. I think don't undersell yourself on that. It's. I try to keep it real and as close to the truth as possible. And I know that's one of the things you say all the time here, keeping it real. And I understand that. And yet at the same time, the fact that you're doing it out of your heart, you're not really asking anything in the long run, is what it's really all about, people to people here in this country, isn't it? Yeah, but there's millions of people that do that. I mean, like I said, that's in all of our manuals of life. Whether you call it the Bible, the Quran, the Torah, it doesn't matter. It's all saying the same thing. So there are millions of people who are doing exactly what I'm doing. Some people are, for example, are just called to help their elderly parents. Right. Their grandparents that have taken in their grandchildren because the children themselves are wayward somehow. So everybody's called to something, and this just happens to be visible over Memorial Day. You know what's interesting now, when we're called, we can listen, but we don't always hear. But when we listen and hear, as you have, then the calling really starts to turn into something special. We're going to come back and talk more about this. Ken Leslie, the founder of Veterans Matter, with us here on the Gary Sutton Show, one of the true heroes that walk among us right now. We'll be right back with him here on News Radio 910 WSBA. Welcome back to the Gary Sutton Show on WSBA on a Friday morning. It's Memorial Day weekend. I can't think of a better time to talk to Ken Leslie, founder of Veterans Matter, who's helping veterans out there right now who are homeless. Do you have? As I talk to you, Ken, I'm just thinking, every now and then we run into the bureaucracy somewhere. We run into someone that says, I understand. And then that's their way of saying, like, let's have lunch together sometime when you never really want to do it. And I imagine you ran into that a few times. And you're a guy that can,
I don't know if ruffling feathers is exactly it, but you could make people a little uncomfortable, I think, by just being straightforward and honest about this, right?
Yeah, truth can do that.
Well said.
When people were telling me, that I was an alcoholic and addict, that truth was hurtful. I did, as you said earlier, I viewed myself more as a party animal. But the reality is, picking up on something you said in the end, is when you're doing what you're called to do, these amazing things happen. First of all, you have a feeling inside, you just know it. And that gave me and continues to give me the peace that I sought with drugs and alcohol but never got. So why wouldn't I keep doing the things that make me truly feel good? And there's so many people out there that are doing the exact same thing, and that's like one of the secrets of life. But then when the wild things start happening that are unimaginable, I get a quick example. I got a call from the Detroit VA on a Monday. And somebody at my church said they knew a guy up in Detroit named Mitch Albom, wrote Tuesdays with Morrie.
Absolutely, yeah.
He's Mr. Detroit. They said try to get a hold of him. So that following Sunday, I was going to ask my friend how to get connected to him so I can ask him if he'd like to anchor Michigan. Well, on Wednesday, I get a call from Dr. Chad Howdy, who's with the Detroit Rescue Mission. He had been referred to me by Mike Stoops of the National Coalition for the Homeless in Washington to get advice on handling how to handle the federal government's transition as far as strategic advice.
Right.
So I spent about an hour and a half on the phone with him, and then at the end of the call, he says, "So what do you guys do?" And I, told him about what we do in the Little Veterans Matter thing, and how on Monday I'd gotten a call from the VA, and on Sunday I was going to go check with this, see if I get hold of this Mitch Albom guy and get him involved. And he goes, "You're not going to believe this, but I handle all of Mitch's charities."
Wow.
I'm certain he'd love to be involved, and I think we'd like to give you some money. And 2 weeks later, I was up getting a check from Mitch for $15,000.
Oh, that's great stuff.
And when that kind of stuff happens, you're just called. Dusty Hill's another example. He came around. He was going to do a campaign for us just to help get the word about how many veterans are unhoused out there. And he said, this program's so cool, I'm going to go back to Houston and start one up. And as a comedian, I worked with everybody from Seinfeld to, Bob the Open Micer.
Right.
And the celebrities all say, "Oh, yeah, what I'm going to do is," and they never do it. Well, son of a gun, Dusty went back. They've now raised $70,000 for Texas veterans, and I think we've housed about 135,000.
Oh, that's great.
So it's people actually just doing the pieces of what they can. Maybe you could start raising the funds of $75,000 needed for 100 veterans in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
To measure vouchers. Everybody will do what they're called to do. And if you're not called to help, that's okay too.
Let me ask you one final question here on this Memorial Day weekend. And was there ever a moment that stands out among all the moments you've had since 1990 and beyond, and that you said, "Wow, this is way bigger than myself"?
I don't think so, because I stay within myself.
Okay.
So if I just continue to do what I can on an individual basis, but I think if there was one powerful lesson that I learned is the power of one to encourage. When I came up with the whole idea to start the One Matters program in Tent City back in 1990, It was just during a drive from a Cumulus station, as a matter of fact, doing a comedy album at that time over to this bar to meet a friend. And I went in and I said, "Listen, I just had this idea, boom, 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 boom." And she said, "Great, let's do it." Had she not said that, "Let's do it," we would not be on the phone right now.
What can we do? What can we do here to start helping? What can we do to start getting things going?
Veterans Matter is we have a campaign that we've set up. They can go to the website veteransmatter.org or just Google veterans and Kix Brooks or Ice-T, and you'll be able to find us. Or right now they can text VETS VETS to 41444. And a thing will come up, and they'll be able to click through and make a donation of any amount that they want on their credit card or their debit card. And the company that has it set up is there are no processing charges. We'll have no credit card processing charges for it. It's just a really cool thing.
So you text VETS 41444, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Ken, I can't tell you what an honor it's been talking to you today. It has been really refreshing, and it's nice to know, and I know we have a lot of people out there doing a lot of great things, but it's nice to know one who's really helping with a problem that we have right now, and maybe that's an inspiration for us to all kind of get more involved here, especially this Memorial Day weekend when we remember our veterans here in this country. Whatever I can do to help any of your listeners, if you have ideas, email us, info@veteransmatter.org. We'd love to help you if you want to help them. And afterwards, call Gary and tell him some of the things that you guys do, what you feel called to do besides the veterans.
Exactly.
It's a great community that you guys have. You do a lot of good. Let's just recognize some of that.
Ken, thanks so much, and and a meaningful Memorial Day weekend to you. I look forward to talking to you again soon.
I hope we do.
Take care. Thank you. Ken Leslie with us here on the Gary Sutton Show, an inspiring story of what one person can do when they get out there and all the people who are living in homes now who didn't have homes before.